Hey YouTube, Rob Usher here. It's been quite a long time since I did anything on this YouTube channel. It's been about 2 years since my last video, and that was an Atlanta United video actually. And I'm sure the majority of the 500 people who subscribed to me subscribed a long time ago when I was doing a lot of US national team content. My last real effort at a video was over 4 years ago, and well, a lot's changed since then. A lot's changed with the national team. A lot's changed with me. For the last 4 or 5 years, I've been working with SB Nation on several different projects and soccer blogs. I worked with their U.S. national team blog for a long time. I started my own Atlanta United blog, Dirty South Soccer. Started it from scratch. Now it's one of the top 10 soccer blogs on the network, so I'm pretty proud of that. And that's just taken pretty much all of my time, and I haven't been able to do many videos on this platform, so that's where I've been for the last 4 years, if anyone cares. I do have an idea for a new series I'd like to try out here on the YouTube channel. It's an idea I've been kicking around for a little bit regarding the U.S. national team, and maybe a monthly series looking at just the overall player pool, the possible starting lineup options, and just general thoughts on the team as a whole. It's the Gold Cup just finished a couple of weeks ago. Everyone has a ton of thoughts on Greg Berhalter and the new style and the new tactics and all of the things that come with a new era starting, and I'm no different. Overall, I'd say the Gold Cup was a pretty mixed bag. I I saw glimpses of what Greg Berhalter was trying to do. He he had a few moments where he impressed me. I think the first 15 minutes against Jamaica was probably the pinnacle of the Gold Cup for us. That was the best they looked all tournament, probably the best the U.S. national team has looked in a very long time. On the flip side, there were also some negatives, specifically how overmatched we looked against a very reserve-laden Mexico team. They didn't have a lot of their best players, and if they did, they probably would have wiped the floor with that team that we put out there. That was very eye-opening. There was also the overall player selection for the squad was disappointing, to say the least. I think that's my biggest concern going forward with Berhalter. I can get on board with some of the tactics he's trying to put out there, and the ideas and mindset of the team seems pretty good, but the player selection just has to improve. So with this new lineup idea slash web series slash podcast, whatever you want to call it, I'm just trying something new. I'm not expecting much. If anyone out there likes it, I might try again. As you can probably tell, I'm not the best speaker. This is why I don't do my own podcast. I'm not on someone else's podcast. I turn down a lot of podcast guest opportunities, even though they're offered to me. But for some reason, people like what I have to say on Twitter, so I thought it might be cool to try this out and see what happens. So without further ado, let's see what happens. I'm sure we all know the cliche in soccer that coaches love to use pundits the first name on the team sheet. Well, I have two names I would write down in Sharpie on my team sheet, and I'm sure most of you can guess who they are. Number one is obviously the golden boy, Christian Pulisic. Obviously, I have him on the wing, at left wing. We'll get to why later. I'm sure you can probably guess what's coming here later on, but we'll get to it later. It obviously differs from how Berhalter used him in the Gold Cup. He was played more centrally with Paul Arriola on the left wing, which was fine. I mean, Paul Arriola probably deserved his shot. He was played well with DC United, but I just don't think he's the answer, and we'll get to why later. Obviously, the second name on the team sheet, my boy, Tyler Adams. And again, I have him in a different spot than Berhalter would have played him in. He said publicly he would play him at the right back position. I just don't think that's... Well, I do agree with it, and I don't agree with it. We'll get to why when we get to right back, but for the sake of argument, right now, you play him in his best position. Your two best players in two very important positions. The third name on the team sheet, not quite in Sharpie, but it's getting pretty close, is another youngster that you can build around for the future, is Weston McKennie. I thought McKinney had a very good Gold Cup. I won't over exaggerate and say he was amazing. He had his moments. The game against Jamaica was far and away the best he's looked for the national team. In the big game against Mexico, he struggled, unfortunately. Even with the captain's armband, he just couldn't put a stamp on the game, and that happens. I think looking ahead for this season with Schalke, he's signed his new contract. This is a really big one for him. This could make or break his pretty much his career going forward, in my opinion. I know that's pretty bold to say, but if you look at it, he's entering close to entering his prime years as a soccer player. No, not really as an athlete, but as a soccer player. He could really help his cause this year with a great season. Maybe going up a level to another big club. But this season's really big for him. If we're going by order of certainty, they'll be on the team sheet. I think the next one has to be goalkeeper. Zach Steffen was fine in the Gold Cup. I can't recall him having any major any major mistakes. I think his distribution is still lacking, but you can't get any better as far as pure shot stopping and just overall goalkeeping. I think he's fine. I mean, there's really no one behind him that's better. Sean Johnson's not good enough. Brad Guzan, not. Don't get me started. Bill Hamid is the only one that has a legitimate beef of not getting on into the team, but for some reason Berhalter just doesn't rate him, and that's that. Now moving up to who's going to be in front of Steffen are the two center backs. I think this Gold Cup was a great opportunity for guys to prove themselves and really grasp starting jobs without John Brooks in the side. And unfortunately, guys like Matt Miazga, Walker Zimmerman, and the rest just did not do that. So by default, John Brooks gets his spot in the side for right now. Obviously, he's never very healthy when we need him to be, but as far as pure talent goes, he's still top of the list right now. As far as who would join him, for me, I would pick Aaron Long. I think he had a really good Gold Cup. He's probably in the best form club wise right now, and for lack of a better option, he's my guy. When you're talking long term, this is where it gets a little bit more exciting. You have several guys coming up the ranks. Most notably is obviously Chris Richards at Bayern Munich. Had a great U20 World Cup. Is just a pure natural talent who looks destined to be a star for the national team. Well, we all know how that goes, so who knows? But right now, he looks to be odds-on favorite to be a starter going forward in the next year or two. Biased opinion, I still like Miles Robinson. He started off the year with Atlanta United really well. He's hit a bit of a rough patch, but keep an eye out on him. And then there's always Cameron Carter-Vickers. Who knows what's going on with him? Yeah. And Matt Miazga is always a candidate. And then Walker Zimmerman is still in the mix. Moving over to right back is where we have our first real debate. And one that'll probably get very contentious. For me, right now, gun to my head, I'm going Reggie Cannon. I thought he looked very good in the two games that he really featured heavily in against Jamaica and then in Mexico. He had an assist against Jamaica, looked very good overall. He has surprisingly good technical ability. I didn't think he was that technical in the ball. He's got great pace and he's a very smart player. And defensively, he looks pretty adequate. I think most people are gonna say, "Where's DeAndre Yedlin?" It's a very good question. Obviously, right now he's hurt, so that leaves him out of the debate. But when he is healthy, I tend to agree with Greg Berhalter as far as his role in the team. He seems more like a change of pace substitute to bring on late in the games. He's, as much as it pains me to say, he's not technical enough for this type of attack where we're trying to keep the ball, trying to be fluid and everything. He has a tendency to give the ball away way too much, and he's just not very reliable in possession. The big question regarding right back is obviously Tyler Adams. Greg Berhalter wants to play him there for his hybrid midfielder role, whatever you want to call it. Not sure how it works. I'm not that smart. But I can see both arguments of wanting to play Tyler Adams there. It's the same debate we had a long time ago with Fabian Johnson at left back. It's a pure debate of talent versus availability. You don't have talent at left back, so you move a talented player over there, then move another talented player in the midfield. It's the same debate then as it was, or same debate now as it was then. So I can see why you would want to do it, but for now, Tyler Adams is in the midfield. As far as the future goes, there's always the big name everyone wants to talk about is Sergino Dest at Ajax. So far, he's really impressing. He's getting glowing reviews in preseason. Hopefully, he finds a way to get into the lineup this season in the Eredivisie, and he keeps coming up the charts, and maybe he gets a call up later this year or next year. Who knows? Moving over to left back, it's probably the hardest position to fill just because there's no one worthy of the spot. For me, right now, I give it to Nick Lima. He's not a natural right back, but he's a technically sound player. He can keep possession, keep the attack moving, and he's not bad defensively. So he gets a spot right now. Looking ahead to the futures where it gets a little bit more exciting, you have, I think, Chris Gloucester is the main prospect everybody's hoping does well at Hanover this season coming up. He did really well at the U20 World Cup. Another biased selection to look out for me is George Bello at Atlanta United. He was supposed to be the starter coming into this season, but has been hurt all season. Frank de Boer says that he's going to be a starter when he gets fully fit. We'll see if that happens, and if it does, maybe he works his way into the conversation as a natural left back. Moving up to the highly debated striker position, for me, it's still no debate. Josie Altidore is the best striker in the pool still. I think in the Gold Cup he made a very big difference from Giassi Zardes. His hold-up play is very good. He missed some chances, especially the big one against Mexico. It was very unfortunate in my opinion. He did so well to get himself in position to score. He just didn't do it. I'm sure people are tired of seeing Josie up there, seeing his name on the team sheet. Tired of people making excuses for him, but for me, he's still the best option available. Looking ahead to the future, though, you have three names that people want to see get a chance at striker, and who very well could if they have good club seasons. For me, those three names are Sebastian Soto, Josh Sargent, and Tim Weah. If either one of those three have good club seasons, they could very well put their name in the hat for that starting spot. Now moving over to the right wing to round out the attack, I have a bit of I wouldn't say a surprising name, but one that wasn't at the Gold Cup and maybe should have been. For me, Tim Weah deserves a spot in the team. He's just too talented not to play. He proved it at the U20 World Cup. He's got buckets of talent. Very good on the ball. Very confident. Always going forward. Wants to make things happen. And a very exciting player to look forward to this season. Obviously, the names behind him to try and take that spot are Jordan Morris, who eventually won the starting spot in the Gold Cup, but really didn't impress much. Then you have Tyler Boyd, who looked pretty good early in the Gold Cup and just made his move to Besiktas in Turkey. And then Paulo Ariola still gets a mention from me. He's a solid player, not too dissimilar from Alejandro Bedoya last few cycles. He's a very good workhorse. Not overly talented, but he's a squad player that has a place in the team. Now finally, the last place in the team goes to a new boy, someone who hasn't even been called up to the national team yet. For me, Paxton Pomykal is just way too good of a soccer player to not be playing for the U.S. national team. He's, for lack of a better term, a technical master. He would fit perfectly in the midfield and uh, give Berhalter the option of moving Pulisic wide to the left and giving more talent in the midfield, obviously with moving Michael Bradley out of the defensive midfield role. Pomykal's got all the talent in the world, and for me, it doesn't matter his age or the Olympics coming up. The best player should play. And right now, Pomykal is more than earned it with his play for FC Dallas. And anyone who sees him can tell he just oozes class and deserves to be in this team. Now, obviously, there's always Michael Bradley. If you want to play a little bit conservative and not risk too much youth on the field or too much attacking presence, and you want to play conservative, you can always put Michael Bradley back in there. I know people hate him, but for me, he's still an option. I hope that he's phased out eventually, and when we get to 2022, and he's gone by then. But for right now in July 2019, he's still an option for me. That's my 11 for July. It's pretty strong lineup, I think, especially attacking wise. I would love to see that front six. That would be a dream right now. Obviously, the back four is very up in the air, especially left back is probably the weakest position that I have no idea about. I just threw Nick Lehman there just because I had to. Any of these back four could change at the drop of a hat. John Brooks is probably going to get hurt tomorrow, so who the heck knows there. DeAndre Yedlin can have a great season and put his name back in there, so who knows. But right now, this is what I would go with. Feel free to tell me what I'm wrong about. If I'm stupid, you hate hearing me, doesn't matter. Give me your opinion. I love to hear what people think. I love to converse. Follow me on Twitter, comment, all that good stuff. I'm just doing this for fun. I don't want your money. Don't want you to sub to me. Don't really care. Just thought this might be fun to try out, and this was my attempt. So if it sucked, I apologize. I don't really have anything to plug. So if you like what I'm doing or want to see more, I have my Atlanta United blog has a YouTube account that I get paid to make videos for, so subscribe and maybe they'll keep paying me for some reason. I don't know why they do, but they do. So that's it. Maybe we'll see you next month.